All right, welcome back to the 2086 NBA playoffs. We are here in the second round, folks. We are here with the Chicago Bulls at the ScotiaBank Arena in Toronto, Canada, facing the Raptors, who are hosting game number 3. Game number 3, guys. And as you can see right now, we're in at the second quarter. We are currently looking at the bench units of both teams going at it. So this is just a little opportunity to see how the bench units perform and how against each other and see what matchups they can exploit. We currently have this guy named Dwayne Wallace at the shooting guard position. If you look at him, number 10, he just shot that and bricked it. But we got him from the trade deadline. This number 18 guy for the Raptors is Doyle Leonard. We just got him from the trade deadline as well. And so basically today's episode, we're going to be jumping into the background of this Raptors team and how they came to form. And because we did that in the last episode for the Chicago Bulls, so it's only right that we give the Raptors their fair share. And my goodness, folks, they do have a very long story that I have to get into a little bit later. We're going to check out this simcast. So maybe I can explain it during the video. I thought I was going to do it after, but I could do it during. We have Kelvin Houston at the line making that free throw. It is a close game here, folks, in the second quarter. Only a 4-point deficit from the Chicago Bulls. Toronto Raptors with 62 points. Chicago Bulls with 58. Kelvin Houston at the line. He shoots it and he scores it. Yes, Kelvin Houston. We explained in the last episode his long and winding road to end up on this team. As Keith Murphy. Oh, Keith Murphy almost end up. Okay, oh my goodness, Justin Reed with an absolutely ferocious alley-oop from Keith Murphy. My goodness. As OJ Murray gets a wide open lane to the rim, he throws up a wild shot and bricks it. Good defense by Dwayne Wallace. As Hakeem Udoh, the former All-Star, the 18-year veteran, former All-Star for the Charlotte Hornets, former All-NBA member for the Charlotte Hornets and Miami Heat. Yes, as he is now coming off the bench in a supportive role for the Toronto Raptors. We will get into his backstory a little bit later. But yes, he comes off a screen and squares up at the top of the free throw line and hits the jumper. My goodness. Hakeem Udoh, folks, he's already got 8 points. Wait, hold up. Where's he at? No, he's got 11 points. Sorry, he hit one little fadeaway over Kelvin Houston, then he hits another fadeaway over Kelvin Houston. That was a matchup they were exploiting earlier on in the first quarter with the bench units. Hakeem Udoh was about 6'9", and we'll get into a story a little bit later, but like I said, he is a former All-Star, former All-NBA, nearly an NBA champion. And so he has a lot of scoring chops. He has a lot of scoring instincts. And so he's off this bench. He's giving this team a very good, stable bench presence tonight. Hopefully, that is, as he's been absolutely unplayable up to this point. Actually, let's go back to this box score. Let's look at his box score numbers. Oh, look at this, by the way. 7-time All-Star, 6-time All-NBA. First team All-Rookie, 2069, as he was the 9th pick in the 2068 draft class. And look at his playoff stats, folks. 0 points, 0 assists, 0 rebounds. He has been unplayable. He had played in like one game, or he had played 1 or 2 games, and he scored just quintuple zeros, right? Like just didn't do anything. And up to that point, they had lost faith in him, so he had been benched for the rest of that Boston series. And now they're down 2-0 against Chicago, so they're trying to shake it up a little bit, throw him back into the lineup, see if he can do something. He's not a young player that's messing up. This is a guy with a proven track record. He's normally a playoff riser, so this is a little bit of a shocker. This isn't like they're not trying to this guy sucks now. Like, they're just like, damn, he wasn't really doing anything. He's about 36 years old now, so he's pretty old. He's not as mobile as he used to be. That's why he has to play more of the 4 spot at this point in his career, the backup 4. He's not as mobile as he used to be. He's not dunking on anybody anymore. His jump shot has always been very flat, but now that's accentuated because of his slowness. And it just looks kind of funny. But he's still effective when he wants to be. He's never been the most efficient guy, despite him putting up big numbers and stuff and having pretty good playoff success. He has never been like a 55% type of guy, field goal. He's normally around 42, 43%, even in his heyday. Even in his heyday, it was probably about 42 to 45% field goal percentage, And he had great, like 40+% three-point percentage, but his field goal percentage was never all that efficient for whatever reason. He kind of, I don't know why, but he was effective though. He was effective, and his true shooting percentage was always very high. So I don't know. I can't really put my finger on it. It's kind of a mystery, I guess. But he is still an effective player. He's still, hung on to a spot in the league, obviously. And he's here 18 years later, playing on a playoff team in the second round. Making an impact. Look at that rebound. Snags a rebound over a 7-footer as we speak. A young 7-footer, too. He hits Dwayne Wallace. He takes a shot, breaks it. Kelvin Houston with the rebound. Toronto Raptors are up 7 points as Kelvin Houston drives, puts up a wild shot over the taller Justin Reed, gets it swatted. He passes it up to Reed. Hakeem Udoh comes off the Reed screen. What's he going to do? Drives towards the rim, puts up a shot, misses it, gets his own rebound, kicks it back out to Wallace, who hits the mid-range jump shot. What a sequence there. from Hakeem Udoh. My goodness. As we have Keith Murphy. Hakeem Udoh. Come on now, man. You know better than that. leaves Dexter Howell wide open underneath the rim for an easy slam. As Doyle Leonard drives towards the rim, puts up a wild shot over Antoine Carter and bricks it. Kevin Houston with the rebound. Kevin Houston is a very good rebounder for his position. He's only 6'4" point guard, but he has long arms and he is athletic. He knows how to grab rebounds, folks. Got Dexter Howell at the free throw line for the Chicago Bulls. He was cut from the Charlotte Hornets early on in his career. Here he is in a Bulls uniform in a high stakes playoff game, so it happens like that sometimes. As he hits the free throw. So I'm excited for this playoff series, man. I really think that Toronto could really, I think they could win it. If they pull it out today, which we don't know if they will, but if they pull it off today, that can make this very interesting. But if not, then they can basically book their flights to Cancun immediately because they're probably not going to come back from a 3-0 deficit. But we've seen this team defy odds before. But I'm not going to lie, it's starting to get past the time to where they get benefit of the doubt all the time. It's starting to get a little bit impatient with this team. They can't get benefit of the doubt forever. They can't get unlimited latitude. You're gonna have to show some other fight, if you will, some other accolades than beating the Louisville Liberty in 2083, which was 3 years ago. That's their biggest accomplishment to this point. They beat the Louisville Liberty, who, as we know, were the most recent dynasty, coming off 4 championships in a row. The Toronto Raptors knocked them out in year number 5 in the first round as the 7th seed, by the way, so it was an upset. Liberty did have some injuries. They did have some, a lot of fatigue. 4 finals in a row, is a lot of extra mileage. That's like a whole other season of basketball. So it was just a lot of injury, a lot of fatigue, just wear and tear. And they were able to pull it out. They actually took a either 3-1 or 3-0 series lead. I can't remember, but Louisville Liberty ended up coming back and forcing a Game 7 only to lose the Game 7. But that has been this Raptors team's only accomplishment up to this point. They haven't done anything outside of that. But that alone has given them a lot of latitude in the eyes of fans in the front office and all that. Like the roster, it wasn't very good. Like, they've been improving. And like I said, we'll get into that, and we might as well start now. It's halftime, and I didn't skip the halftime like I wanted to, but but yeah. So they weren't like amazing, and so they kind of built this team brick by brick, and they kind of exceeded expectations, to be honest. They're a little bit of a hodgepodge group. They're not exactly all on one accord, so it's a very interesting team. And yeah, well, let's check into this second half, and let's check into that fourth quarter and see how this ends, and then look into the backstory. I don't want to get too far into it right now, but yeah. So let's look at this real quick. We got the Toronto Raptors with a 7-point lead rather, going into the third quarter. We're going to go ahead and simcast this, and probably till about 5 minutes to go in the fourth, if it's a close game, which it is not. Oh my goodness, Toronto Raptors, look at that, as they absolutely smoked them in the third quarter. Chicago Bulls going down 30 points as we check back into the game with 54 seconds to go in the fourth. Toronto Raptors have 166 points, and the Chicago Bulls only have 133. What happened? You're gonna have to check this out, folks. It's N'dour, puts up a shot and bricks it. Passes to Quinn. Quinn does Bosch. Gets it back to Quinn. Passes it to Baxter on the wing. He throws it up. Oh, broken up by Justin Reed. But yeah, I want to see this real quick. Derek Robinson had 41 points, 15 for 20. Yes, big man. Let's go. That's what we like to see. Look, he's averaging 67% field goal percentage, 20 points per game this playoff run. 71% true shooting percentage. Oh my goodness. Yeah, this guy needs to be your number one option at this point. Yeah, like plain and simple. Doug Wesley's been struggling, but he gave us 30 points tonight on only 5 for 8 shooting. Wow, he had a lot of free throws, 17 free throws. It's crazy. Rabiu N'dour with 24 points and 14 assists. Justin Reed with 18 and 10. Stephon Beasley with 13. Frederick Warwick with 12. Murphy with 11 off the bench. And Udoh with 11 off the bench. And then Dwayne Wallace with 6 off the bench. My goodness. Stephon Beasley, yes, spots up for that midi and knocks it down. Who scored that much in the fourth quarter? Derek Robinson, baby. He scored 16 points in the fourth to extend that lead. And it looks like, who didn't score? Moncrief, he only had 5 points. Quinn had 16 in the fourth, though, too, though. I don't know, man. I don't know. I did not expect that. I wanted the game to be close so we could hop in and actually be a close game that we could watch, but oh well, that didn't happen. That clearly didn't happen. as the Toronto Raptors take Game 3 and make this a very interesting series now. As they are in a 2-1 deficit, very, very much able to come back from this. This is completely doable. So this is anyone's series, folks. This is not nowhere near over. Chicago is going to be looking to take a forceful Game 4 victory, with a 3-1 deficit. That will basically close the book on this series, hopefully, for them if they want to close it out. If they don't want to drag this, they do not want this to drag on any longer than it needs to be. So let's back out and let's go to the roster and let's get into this backstory. So let me see how I should even do this. Actually, should I just do it like this? I can just do it like this. So our point guard at point guard, 6'2" from high school, age 28. We have Rabiu N'dour, folks. And I don't even know that name. I don't even know if I'm saying it right. I don't know if it's like an African name or something. I don't know. But he has the alpha dog. The alpha dog mentality. That alpha dog badge. He has an expressive badge and the bronze work ethic badge. He has 64 total badges. And he has a one-time MVP. You see that bright and shiny MVP on his resume. MVP of 2085. So last season, he's the reigning MVP. Well, not the reigning MVP, but he won it last year. And yeah, so and that was coming off a season where he had completely carried that team to the 3rd seed, as we will get into the team backstory too. But he had completely carried the team to the 3rd seed after like horrible team success, and so he got an MVP. And he was hoping like long before that. As you can see, so his story is pretty crazy. He started off, he was the not number one, but round 1, pick 27 in 2075 draft class. And so he comes in, and he was drafted to San Antonio, Texas, to play for the Spurs. And he came in, he averaged only 6.3 points per game, 2 assists per game. You know, it was fine off the bench, and that was pretty good actually for a late first round rookie. Like that wasn't even bad, honestly. And then the next year, he only averaged 4.9 points. He kind of got a minutes reduction. They had a lot of guards and stuff fighting for minutes, and he was playing behind Henry Gilbert anyway, who was a lot better at the time. And so he only averaged 4.9 points the second year. But that third year, his efficiency went way up to 49% field goal percentage and 42% from 3-point line. And he only averaged 6 points a game, but that was very promising. So he got his role back in the rotation. And then in 79, he stepped it up to 7.5 points a game. So this is very small increases, but increases nonetheless. And most importantly, the efficiency increases that he made. He had 50% from the field goal percentage this year, really 50.8, so almost 51%, and then 46% from 3-point line. So he's absolutely cooking. Now 72% from the free throw line, not very good, but let's get past that. Doesn't matter. And then we get to the 2080 season, and mind you, look at these true shooting numbers; they're very good. But I mean, he's behind Henry Gilbert, who we can go look at him. He's over in Dallas right now. Granted, he's in Cancun, so say what you will. They're eliminated from playoffs. But look at all these numbers. Like, these are all the years that N'dour was behind him in the rotation. So, like, yeah, 27 and 9, 30 and 10, 29 and 11, 28 and 12, 29 and 11. You know what I'm saying? Like he wasn't gonna overtake him. You know, so he was behind him, even though he was putting up decent numbers or decent efficiency and stuff. And anyway, he gets traded to San Antonio for this guy named Darren Oliver, who is currently in Milwaukee. And let's look at him right here. So this guy, we explained him in the last episode for Milwaukee, but he bounced around a little bit. He was in Sacramento for like 3 years, and he was steadily improving. This guy has like a crazy work ethic, and he was constantly improving, and he was doing pretty good. He was getting a larger and larger role in Sacramento, and then he was a free agent. And they didn't have his bird rights or anything, so he just left, you know, and he signed with Toronto, who was very, 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 very bad. But they just had a lot of money. They had a lot of cap space, so they signed him, hoping that he could be like their number one scorer or whatever. Look at this. He'd only played under 20 minutes a game his whole career, and then he gets 35 minutes a game in Toronto. So he started averaging 20 points a game, 8 rebounds, 6 assists, and then 2 blocks a game. This is a 6'8" small forward / power forward. This is his first time starting all 82 games as well. And so, you know, he made a good impression that year. And so the next year in Toronto, he was putting up like basically the same numbers, and San Antonio came calling like, yo, can you get him off your hands? You know, because they needed someone like just like him. He was like a Swiss Army knife. He can defend, he can shoot, he can block, he can score a little bit. You know, obviously he's not like in the mid 20s. He's not like 25, 26 points a game, but 20 points a game is pretty decent. You know, so they were like, we already got scores. We just need someone to plug in at that wing spot that can, you know, give us a versatile skill set. And so they called Toronto, which they were trying to get off him anyway because they didn't have his bird rights either, and they were like bad anyway, so they were trying to rebuild. And so they traded him away to San Antonio. Like, he wasn't like supposed to be a long-term piece for them. He was just like a whatever. When you have cap space, he needs a home. F it, you know, like you know. So and they're like, we can get assets for him basically. So they signed him, got his trade value up, and traded him, you know, basically. And it worked perfectly because they got back, like we said, this guy right here, Rabiu N'dour, and a couple other guys. I forgot who, but this is the main piece. Rabiu N'dour. They got him back because the San Antonio, they were okay with trading him away because, you know, he was coming off the bench and they were like, look, he's not going to be able to start over Henry Gilbert or next to Henry Gilbert because they're both undersized point guards. So we're going to have to trade one of them. So they'd rather trade him, I guess. So they trade him to Toronto, and he starts averaging 20 points, 7 assists for the season as a starter, as he started for half the year. And then the next year, in his first full season with Toronto as a full-time starting point guard in 2082, he averaged 28 and 10 and 2. So, like, what the heck? And no, not even that. 28 points, 8.9 rebounds, 10.1 assists, 2.1 steals, and 2.2 blocks. 2.0 blocks. In his first full season, this is a 6'2" point guard. Like, skinny, too. Like, this was like a 6'2" skinny little point guard putting up these crazy-ass numbers. And everybody's like, what the fuck? Like, who the hell is this? And guess what? He did it again. 2083, 28, 8, 11, 2, 2. Everyone's like, yo, what the? Like, he's doing everything out there. Like, holy shit. And the Toronto Raptors were god-awful at this time. But they were rebuilding. You know, they were getting their feet wet. You know, they were rebuilding. And actually, 2082, this was the first time making the playoffs under this new core. Because this is actually a little revamped core, because this team was supposed to be led by none other than Bob McLeod, because I think I told you guys this. He was drafted by the Toronto Raptors back in 2070, and so they ended up trading him away in 2077 because all these years, look at this, from 2070 to 2077, they did not make the playoffs, not even once. I don't even think they made the play-in tournament. They were that bad, even though he was putting up these crazy ass numbers, 27 and 10, 25 and 10, 25 and 10. They still did not make the playoffs, and so he demanded a trade, and so they got back a lot of pieces, and they kind of had to reshuffle from there and had to make do what it do from there. But they're supposed to be building around him, and so this is like their new age core or whatever. And so they had an extended period because not only did they didn't make it with Bob McLeod, but they didn't make it after they traded him away, obviously, either. And so it took from like 2070, like, because that's when he was drafted. So a little bit before 2070 until this 2082 season for them to make the playoffs. So like 12 years of playoff drought. And they finally made the playoffs 2082 under Rabiu N'dour, and then, you know, some other guys that they had got at the time, like Derek Robinson and some of these other guys. We'll get into that, but yeah. So they finally made the playoffs this year, and so it was like, okay, shoot, I'm like, this is great. And so he keeps doing this, and they keep getting like low seeds. In 2082. They were the 6th seed, and then this year in 2083 they were the 7th seed, and then in 2084 they were the 8th seed. And so finally in 2085, not only did it step his numbers up, I mean, you see this shit, like, what the fuck, like, what are you actually supposed to do about this? 31 points, 11 rebounds, 13 assists, 2.5 steals, and 2.0 blocks, 51% from the field, 44% from three, 98% from the line. Like, literally like a picture perfect season. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you cannot, like, oh my gosh, like, it was so statistically dominant that they had no choice but to give him the MVP. And they had the 3rd seed in the East that year, and so his numbers were absolutely absurd, and his team was actually winning, so he won the MVP. But that seems like it was a bit of an anomaly because this season they're right back to the 6th seed, 7th seed. I mean, so that 3rd seed might have been an anomaly, as we're finding out. They're consistently a 6th to 8th seed, aside from that 1 year as a 3rd seed. So, you know, there's some questions there, you know. But, like, I don't know, because in 2000, let me see. So we drafted this guy right here. Where is he at? This guy, Stephon Beasley. We drafted him in 2074. As you can see, he spent his entire career as a Raptor. We drafted him way back then, and he's still there. And I ain't gonna lie, like, we have considered him trading him like numerous times. Like he's been on numerous trade blocks. Like, I swear, like, there's been times where fans have burned his jerseys and stuff, where he's had such an up and down career with the Raptors. Like, he's been there and dependable, you know, steady, kinda, but he's had a very, very up and down career. Like as steady as you can be to be up and down, if that makes sense. You know, like his efficiency was never terrible. He's always putting up decent scoring numbers too. He had a couple years of 27, 26, 24 points a game back in the early 80s. You know, so that was interesting. That didn't lead to anything, but that was crazy. So yeah, man. So they had him and they had some other guys. But, you know, he just like, he can put up points, but he's not really supposed to be your main guy. He's not supposed to be counted on. You don't just hand him the ball and be like, go to work. You know, that's not the type of guy he is. And so because of that, sometimes he's not always like gonna put up a lot of numbers and stuff. He's had some stinkers in the playoffs, not gonna lie. He's had some up and downs, like I said. But all in all, he's still here after all these years, and that's all that matters. 12 years in his career, he's been here the whole time. He's been whatever we need from him. Whether we need him to start, whether we need him to come off the bench, whether we need him to the backup 3, the backup 2, whatever. He'll do it, basically. And he doesn't come at a huge cost because of his inconsistencies. He's not like a superstar, but he is a very solid piece to keep on the roster. And it's hard to trade him away. I mean, he's 6'6", he has good size, he can rebound, he can pass a little bit, he's a very good defender on the perimeter. He can hit his shots, he shoots well past 40% year after year. He's usually very efficient the field goal percentage wise, and at least in the regular season, he's usually well over 50%. And so, it's just hard to give up on a guy like that. Especially if you don't have to. It's more like they just didn't know what else to do. They were trying to reshape and retool the roster, and they wanted to replace him, but they'd rather have him off the bench than to just get rid of him completely. You know what I'm saying? Like, some guys you want to keep on the team, but you just don't want to. You don't want to get rid of him, but you want him still here. It's like, I want someone to be in your spot, but I don't want you to be gone. They just want someone else to start over him. Like, they'd be like, this guy would be great if he was off the bench. Like some players are like that. Some players are like, this guy would be great if he was off the bench. Like, if he wasn't being targeted on defense, if he wasn't being game planned for, he would be great, because it's like they have just enough, offensive chops to kind of make some moves. They can kind of do something every now and then, but it's only when the defense is not focused on them. If they're like the third, fourth option on the court, then they can be pretty dangerous. They can be a really good third or fourth option. But first option, second option, no, right? So they're like, man, if we could really just keep him and get someone above him, that would be great. Unfortunately, they haven't done that. He's still starting. They're still depending on him to be great, basically. But it's not for lack of trying. They've been trying to find someone to reclaim that starting small forward spot over Stephon Beasley, but it just hasn't really happened. They're still in the process of that, I think. I definitely would say, because Hakeem Udoh, this guy, like we said, he was supposed to be the guy. He's supposed to be the guy to replace him. Now, he is old, and they knew that going into it. And we know that he doesn't shoot very well from the from the field goal percentage all the time. As you look at this. His career field goal percentage is only 44%, but he averaged 26, 8, and 6, and 1.6 and 1 block per game for his career over 18 years. So that just shows you like how good it is. Look at all these years: 30, 30, 30, 30, 31, 32, 31, 32, 33, 29. Like yeah, bro, yeah. So yeah. So he was in Utah. He was starting to decline a little bit, but they're like, he'll only be like the fifth option on the team, so maybe he could be good in that type of role. And he just wasn't. He just simply wasn't. He wasn't that good. Like, they couldn't start him. They couldn't win games with him starting, so they had to move off the bench, and he couldn't really be the backup small forward, so they had to kind of put him at the power forward. It was just kind of a mess. But they did get Justin Reed in that trade from Utah, by the way. But let me just get into the story of the guys. I know I've been yapping a little bit, but but the point is, like, let's just go into the lineup. So the next guy is Doug Wesley. So he was drafted in 2078 as the 17th overall pick to New Orleans Pelicans. So as you can see, only 3 points a game his rookie year, 5 points a game his second year, then 12, 15, and then 23. So he was not very good coming in, but he steadily climbed, and he was on a roll in the backup New Orleans roster. He was more of a he's only 6'5", but he has a good game for a wing. He can shoot, he can score, he can rebound, and he can defend. That was his main thing. He was a 3-and-D wing. He had a little bit of playmaking chops. He can defend a little bit, and he was good. Like, he was just a good player. He was efficient. So, like, this is a good little pick coming out of the 17th selection. Like, this is a good little steal in the middle of the first round. And so he was here, as you can see, he was here on the Pelicans. He was coming off the bench for a former All-Star named Marvin Wright and a guy named Matthias Boisa, I think his name was. He was like some French guy. They're both retired, by now. But he was coming off the bench for them alongside this guy right here, Cheeky from Australia, with a kind of a funny name. But he was coming off the bench with him as the backup wing duo. And then, so he was drafted in 2078, and so then they draft this guy, Matt Hughes, in 2081, right here, and you see how good he is by now. So he was drafted to overtake Doug Wesley, or to just like be the main guy, because they didn't think Doug Wesley could be the main guy, unfortunately. And so they drafted this guy as well, Ray Stone, small forward, 6'7", in 2082. So they drafted their predecessors and then traded him away. That's what they happened. That's what happened. You can see the writings on the wall when they start drafting multiple people at the high, draft slots, in your position. But he just became a bit expendable, because though he could rebound and he, not even necessarily just rebound so well, but though he could defend, that was his main thing. Though he could defend and he could hit his shots and he had a little bit of ball handling skill, he just wasn't that much of a impactful player necessarily, because he wasn't very strong. He couldn't really drive to the rim. He was more of a catch and shoot type of guy. And they were like, you know what, we need someone that can initiate some offense. We need a point guard. They didn't have a point guard at the time, and so they shipped him to Miami for Dave Martin, who was a former All-Star. We've talked about him in the New Orleans video, but Dave Martin is a 7-time All-Star, 2-time All-NBA member, and he was a former Miami Heat legend. He was there for many years, putting up a lot of good points and assists. 27-12, 27-10. That's his thing. And so they get him to New Orleans for Doug Wesley. Even though Dave Martin was a little bit older, but they said, okay, we need some older veteran presence as the point guard. We'll ship away some young talent and Doug Wesley. And so Miami was cool with that because they were looking to rebuild anyway. And so they're like, cool. They took in Doug Wesley and they gave him the keys to the offense. And he started immediately averaging 23 points a game as a starter over in Miami after coming off the bench all these years in New Orleans. So that is in the 2084 trade deadline. And so now in 2085, his first full season as a starting shooting guard in Miami, he puts up 28, 6, and 8, and 1.6 steals. Mind you, Miami's got awful, but these are really good numbers, and he was very efficient too. Look at this, 69% true shooting. Everybody's like, holy shit, is this like the next guy? Is this the next him? And then the next year, 2086, which is this year, he averaged 31.8, 6, and 8. So he jumped up again to 31 points a game. And again, Miami's very bad, but you're like, oh shit, like, what do we do? Because Miami is so bad, but Doug Wesley's already 26, and they're like, he's not going to survive this rebuild. You know, like we are nowhere near contending, and so they shipped him away, and they got a lot of assets for him. They shipped him away to Toronto, as we can tell. And unfortunately, he's not playing like up to that level right now in the playoffs. He's only averaging 21, but during the season he was averaging 31. So, you know, whatever. And then we talked about Stephon Beasley a little bit, but Derek Robinson, this guy right here, is the 6th pick, 2080. So coming off that rebuild, they were bad in 2080, and they drafted him, and he was immediately a high motor, very tall, very great physicals guy. He slipped to number 6. He slipped to number 6, and they gladly picked him up there. And he put up 16 and 7 his first year and 1.5 blocks, and then about the same thing for a couple years. And he absolutely broke out in 2084, putting up 28, 9, 2, and 2. And so he's done that ever since 2084 up until this year. And so he's still doing that. And so he's been really good, all-star caliber center for them for the last couple of years. He's only 25 years old. He should continue to get better and better, and be one of their pillars going forward. And then Justin Reed, they got him from Utah, 7'1", about a 7'8", 7'9" wingspan, so crazy wingspan. But he was only the first pick in the second round, and there's 32 teams in this league, so it's probably like the 33rd overall pick back in 2079 to Boston. And immediately averaged 61% from the field goal percentage. He's never shot below 56% from the field in his entire career, by the way, in his 7-year career. So that just shows you like what that player he is. But he was a little bit underrated. I'm not sure what exactly made him slip so much. Maybe because they didn't think that he had much offensive talent or something. But he was, like clearly, it was unclear what his thing was. Like he had good measurements, but he didn't really have great stats necessarily. And so we were like, what can he do? Like, what does he do? I don't know. But he has great physicals. So like, pick him up. Boston picked him up, and we figured out his thing was he's efficient and he can block shots. We look at his per 36 numbers. They're at about like 2.1 to 2.9 blocks per game. So they're like, okay, he's blocking shots off the bench and he's very efficient. Cool. Like that's a good little role. We can keep him in the rotation, because they're trying to figure out who they're going to keep for their future, what big men they're going to keep. So they had like 4 or 5 big men actually, and he was one of the ones that they kept in the rotation because he had that specific skill set, And then this year, 2082, his third year, he started for 72 of 82 games, and he put up 17 points, 2 blocks a game, only 6 rebounds. And so they're like, okay, cool, like he can hang a little bit, that's not bad at all. And then they ended up drafting the guys they have now. They drafted Curtis Moore in 2080, and so he was right there. He started immediately because he was the first pick in the draft, so he was immediately a starter. And then they got Dante Simpson here in that same year that they got Justin Reed, and he was a little bit better, and so he ended up getting the starting spot. Him and them were kind of fighting for a starting spot, and then they had somebody else. I can't remember. They had somebody else. They had like 4 big men that were all fighting for positions. And so, there he is right there, Kurt Stevens, Keith Stevens actually. So it was like those 3 guys these years fighting for big man minutes. Those 4 guys, I mean. And so Justin Reed, where's he at in Toronto? Justin Reed, unfortunately, was the odd man out. Because they felt like his specific skill set was a little bit niche, maybe, like it's kind of specific, you don't do 2 specific things, while the other guys were more versatile all around. And so they ship him off to Utah, where, let me see, did he start in Utah? I don't think he did. No, he didn't really. Like, he kind of started a little bit, but Utah was looking to be a contender at this point, because this was the year after they made the finals with Juan Carlos Chavez. And so they were like still in contention mode a little bit, so they were trying to throw shit at the wall, trying to get certain guys. That didn't really work out, and they ended up shipping him off to Utah. I mean, not Utah. They shipped him off to Toronto the following season, 2084, because they were trying to just tear it up. And Justin Reed was already in his prime, so they're like, he's not going to survive the rebuild. He doesn't want to be here during a long rebuild. So they shipped him off to Toronto along with Hakeem Udoh. Like I said, they got him because they were trying to contend as well. But again, that didn't really work out. It was a quick little turnaround for Utah there. So they traded both of them to Toronto, and here they both are. And then Keith Murphy is their 6th man right now. 6'10", small forward from LSU. He's only in his 3rd year in the league, folks. And he averaged 17 points a game this regular season. He started most of the games, honestly. And like I said, he's 6'10". He's never averaged single-digit points in his career. His first year, he averaged 12. His second year, he averaged 10. This year, he averaged damn near 18. You know, and so he was only the 17th pick of the second round. Like, that's the crazy part. So that is, what is that, like 49th? Like, yes, 32 teams. So yeah, 49th overall. Keith Murphy. He was literally his only thing that got draft scouts, only thing that they thought he could do was shoot. Right, that's it. They're like, he's a tall dude that can shoot, basically. That's literally his only draft thing. They were like, he can't defend, he can't rebound, he can't do shit. All he can do is shoot, and he can barely do that. You know what I'm saying? But Toronto said, fuck it, we'll take him. You know, so they picked him up. It's such a low stakes pick. Like, it was fucking 17th pick in the second round. They're like, who cares? Basically, you know. So they're like, cool. Like, they're like, if this pans out, like, that would be great. You know, because he's tall and he can shoot. So that's like a good little height mismatch out on the wing. He's 6'10", and it's like, you know, you need people that can knock down shots in the playoffs. So they're like, if this could pan out, this would be great. And it panned out. Like, so it's great. You know. Keith Murphy has far exceeded expectations. Far exceeded expectations. You know, like, when you're the 17th pick of the draft in the second round, when you're 17th pick in the second round, you're expected to be, hopefully he can do something. You know, that's one of those draft slots where you're like hopeful that maybe he could crack the rotation in maybe 3 years. You know, something like that. You know, it's usually like that. Not that he's going to come out the gate averaging 12 points a game on 50, 58, 44, 96 splits. And so, in LSU, clearly he was a beast. He must have been, you know, to be putting up these numbers immediately in the NBA. So he must have been really good at LSU. Maybe people didn't watch film enough or something. But Frederick Ward, now this guy, look at that shit, man. 25 years old, 5 years pro. He's coming off the bench currently. 7'2". Look when he was drafted. Just look. Just have a look. He's from Loyola, Illinois. Shout out. Personality expressive. 261 pounds. Center position, number 50. He was drafted number 1 overall. Number 1 in 2081. He was the first pick in the draft. 7'2", do everything basically. He can shoot, score in the paint, shoot in the mid range. He had a little bit of his B playmaking, B perimeter defense, A+ rebounding, A+ post defense, A+ athleticism, A+ basketball IQ, etc., etc., etc. So they were like, holy shit. Now, he wasn't necessarily supposed to be the first pick, but it was like, it was justifiable because he has the most upside. It's like, if this guy pans out as a 7'2" guy with all those skills, if all those skills actually translate, he would be a generational big man. And there was reason to believe that they would. So they picked him up, first overall pick. And to this point in his career, he's averaged 17 points a game, 7 rebounds, and 1 block per game in 5 years, like over 5 years. So he's had some up and downs. He's been off the bench. He's been on the bench. You know, he's been in the starting lineup. He's been off the starting lineup. He's been in the coach's office getting chewed out. You know, like he's been all over the place. He's been on the highlight reels. He's been on the lowlight reels. You know, he's had some up and downs. But he played very well in that Liberty series. I'll give him that. But yeah, so he's first overall pick. Very, very, like, he's almost like, he reminds me of Christopher Sullivan because he was the first pick, just like him. And they both have that skill set. They both have like that generational type skill set where if it panned out, they would be amazing. You know, he has scoring in the paint. Like, he has really good post moves. He has really good, you know, inside defense feel. He's a great shot blocker. He's a great rebounder. You know, he's very tall. He's athletic. He can throw down lobs. Like, he does everything that you would want, but he's just not consistent enough with it to be the starter. But that does give him a nice advantage against bench bigs when he comes off the bench. So, you know, they kind of used him in that role that Phoenix used Christopher Sullivan. And so, yeah, so he hasn't won the accolades up to this point except first team all rookie. But he's only 5 years into the league, and, you know, there's still potential for him to pop off, I guess. Doyle Leonard, they got this guy from Golden State Warriors. He's had an up and down career. He was literally the very last pick in 2073, but he carved out a little bit of a career for himself. Averaged about 10 points for his career, but he had a year in Golden State averaging 22 and 10, and he had a year in Atlanta before that averaging 10. So, you know, he had a little bit of a breakout there, but he's mostly been a backup big his whole career. That one season where he averaged 22 points, he only averaged it on 42% field goal percentage on a god-awful Warriors team at -9 plus minus. So, you know, not exactly legitimate necessarily. And then Dwayne Wallace is a 6'4" point guard. Doyle Leonard is only 6 foot, by the way, from high school, so very commendable that he even made it this far, I guess. But Dwayne Wallace, he's from Auburn, 6'4" shooting guard, round 1, pick 26, 2075 to the Rockets. He averaged only about 5 points a game for the first 5 years of his career. Then he signed with San Antonio for 3 years, averaged like 6 points. Always been a reliable shooter, always been like pretty efficient. He's always been like just kind of efficient, like just enough to like keep on the floor. You know, like he's not overly efficient. He's not like, you know, drawing the defense in or anything, but he'll knock down the open shots. enough times to where you're not gonna be, completely frustrated, completely want to kill yourself or anything. Like he'll be all right. Like he does you just enough justice. But he's probably better suited as like a third stringer. But he can be that second string guy if you need him to, potentially. He averaged 10 points a game in Charlotte after his stint in San Antonio. After about 2 to 3 years of inactivity, he went overseas for a couple years, and then Charlotte gives him a call because no one signed him after that. No one signed him after San Antonio. Like they were like, bro, who cares? No one cared about him. So he went overseas for a couple years. Charlotte gave him a call in the middle of the 2085 season, and he played 38 games for them and averaged 10 points a game on pretty good efficiency. Charlotte was not awful that year, but whatever. So they needed somebody to put the ball in the basket, and so he signs with Golden State after that, and then Golden State ships him off to Toronto in the trade deadline for some other stragglers that don't need to be named. And then Ken Rollins, this guy, we drafted him 20th overall back in 2083. He hasn't really done much. He probably won't. I mean, he's just not exactly what we thought he was going to be. He's only 6'2", shooting guard, so not very great, but he has good stats. Like, he can shoot the ball. He knows how to do it. He's pretty efficient a little bit, like, when he gets out there, but the stats look okay, but just the eye test is not great. Like, he doesn't, he's kind of small for a shooting guard, but he doesn't have, like, blistering speed or anything to counteract that. And his jump shot is a little bit slow, too. He gets blocked, like, fairly easily. Just little things like that. It's like, a little bit odd. We're still trying to teach him the kinks and whatnot, but he's already 23, so I don't know. But yeah, so that's the team basically. That's the team, and so a very large like I said, a hodgepodge of guys, a motley crew. This is not, they're not all on one accord necessarily. They have guys of all shapes and sizes, of all diverse backgrounds, and they have guys of all talent levels, all ages, stages of their career. No one really is solidified necessarily. I mean, Rabiu N'dour is an MVP technically, but he still hasn't proven very much. I can admit that was probably a bit of a premature MVP because they went home in the first round of the year that he won it, and he's only been to the second round his whole career. He's never been to the conference finals or the finals. So it's like, I don't know. Like, his stats were great, but he hasn't proven a whole lot. And now he's an MVP. So they're only a 7 seed, and they're down 2-1. So they can probably come back, but who knows? But yeah, so the next, I know that was a longer breakdown, but the next game will be Thunder versus Mavericks. That'll be a little bit quicker game that'll be a quicker video because we went over both teams already. But yeah, so that's basically it. And so just a refresher, just to like put it all together, like in their last 10 years basically of their rebuild is they didn't make the playoffs up until 2082. Oh yeah, this is the guy that I wanted to bring up. So they traded Bob McLeod in 2077. So the middle 2077 they traded him. And so 2078, that draft, the year of the NBA, was 2077 to the 78 year, they were bad. And so they got the 6th pick in the draft, which they used to select this guy right here. Hold on, I'm stumbling on my words, bro. This guy right here, Miami Heat, Dustin Christie. He was the 6th pick in the 2078 draft to Toronto. Look at these numbers, guys. 24, 25, 27, 27, 25, 24, 28. This dude was absolutely bucket. He was absolutely hooping. But like I said, these teams weren't very good until 2082 when they first made the playoffs, which he was still putting up good numbers on those playoff teams. So that was great. But he was supposed to be the franchise player after McLeod left. And so, the Raptors fans loved him. He was like really, really big in the city. Like, he was doing a lot of community stuff, and it was like a really big deal. Like, he was really good because like it was kind of a big deal how the whole McLeod saga ended. And so now they have this new guy who's putting up crazy numbers, and so it was great, right? Great vibes. And they started to get good. They drafted this guy. It's probably not even worth showing, but might as well. Where's he at? He's in Utah somewhere. This guy right here, Dante Howard. They drafted him 2079. 18th overall. He was a backup point guard for a few years. He gets shipped off to Utah in 2084 for Hakeem Udoh and Justin Reed. And he got shipped off along with this guy. Where is he at? He's in Sacktown. Where is he at? Right here. Bernard Toscano. So Bernard Toscano was drafted to the Raptors back in 2079. He was a 3rd pick. So let me see. Yeah, that was the year after Dustin Christie was drafted. So he was drafted that year in 2079. And he was drafted right after Wade Randall. And it was actually if y'all know who Wade Randall is, this guy right here, he's averaging 28, 10, and 8 and 2 blocks a game for his career. So that's who was considered neck and neck with Bernard Toscano at the time of the draft. They were both the same year, 2079. And so it was a real consideration of who you should go with, as if you were Dallas, because they had the 2nd pick. And so they were like, that was a real conversation. Like, who do you go with? Do you go with Randall or Toscano? And they chose Randall, and they chose right, goddammit. Like, Toscano has been a very, very, very disappointing player. He's only averaging 12 points a game and 6 rebounds for his career. Not a bad player by any means, but just not very great. Not as good as people thought he could be. He averaged 15 and 8 his first year, so kind of promising. Then the next year, he was not very good at all. And so he got benched. He only averaged 6 points a game that year, and then he only averaged 7 points a game the year after that. Because obviously they got Derek Robinson and then Frederick Borick, and so they're like, F it, we don't need him anymore. And so they traded him to Utah along with that Howard guy in order to get Justin Reed plus Hakeem Udoh. And so he's in Utah for a little bit, and then he gets traded to Sacramento. He's in Sacramento now. But so the Raptors, we had Toscano and Christie. Those were two big pieces of this rebuild at the time, and especially Christie, who was putting up all those crazy numbers. And in fact, he was like the main reason that we won that series against Liberty back in 2083. And so, but the problem was he's only 6'2", and you know who else is 6'2"? This guy right here, Rabiu N'dour. So they had to choose between the two of them. So all those crazy like 27 and 10 that Christie was putting up, literally Rabiu N'dour was right next to him putting up 28 and 10. So they were both averaging 10 assists a game and like 27 points. So it was like a crazy offense. Like, it was kind of weird. I don't know how they pulled it off, actually. Pretty impressive that they pulled it off. But that wasn't necessarily a winning formula, necessarily. Like, two undersized point guards. Like, they put up good numbers, but like they did make the playoffs, but they were, like I said, they were like 7 seed, 6 seed, 8 seed. So it's like, I don't know. Like, it would be better if the shooting guard was 6'5" to 6'7" instead of 6'2". So like, they had two extremely talented point guards playing next to each other, but they didn't complement each other very well because they're both so small. Neither of them were like high flyers necessarily. And neither of them were like overly bulky. Like they were kind of similar, and so it was a weird fit. And they played alongside each other for a long time, way longer than it probably should have went, because it was just so hard to break that team up, because they're both so good. It's like, who you trade and like for who, and why would you trade them? So basically, they chose to keep N'dour, obviously. Like, as you can see, he's still on the team. They chose to keep him because he won the MVP basically, and then. He was putting up like better stats, and he was like a bit of a better defender, kind of reputation wise and stuff. But it was honestly a toss up. And Dustin Christie had put up so much, like I'm telling you, in those first couple years where they were making like the 6th seed and they were getting knocked out the first round, Dustin Christie was hooping. Like, he was averaging like 30, 33. Like, he was putting up crazy ass numbers in the playoffs too. And so it was like, man, this, like, who the fudge do we choose? Like, look at all these years. All these years he was there. All these years he was next to Rabiu N'dour putting up these numbers. So like, there was like 3 to 4 or 5 years of them in the backcourt together, both at 6'2", and the front office was just at a stalemate. They just couldn't decide who to choose. And so finally this season in 2086, they finally pulled the plug, because Dustin Christie, they actually ended up benching him for N'dour to start the season. For some reason, I forgot why, but no, because they wanted to start Beasley and Murphy at the 2 and the 3, because they really desperately needed size on the wing, because they had 2 point guards, so it's like, you need more size. And so they put Dustin Christie at the backup point guard for Stephon Beasley to be the starting shooting guard, and then Murphy, that second round guy who put up like 17 points a game, started him at the 3 because he's 6'10". So they just needed some more size. And they ended up trading him, Dustin Christie, to Miami for Doug Wesley, that guy that was putting up 32 points a game in Miami, and he's 6'5", and he could, like I said, he could rebound and defend and all that stuff. So it felt like he was a much better fit at the 2 guard spot than another point guard. And they were like, okay, and then he can have his own team in Miami, even though they're bad. Like, they kind of felt bad shipping him to a horrible team in Miami, but they were like, he's a little bit younger. He's only 26, and Wesley's like 28, so he's a little bit younger, and he can have his own team there. Like, he can continue to put up the numbers he was putting up here earlier over there. And so they're like, we wish you the best, but we just can't choose. We can't like have both of you together. So we just have to choose one. It was more of a coin flip kind of thing. They kind of made it sound good, whatever. But they shipped them off to Miami along with this guy, Cecil Arthur, who they drafted 2084, 14th pick overall. They shipped them together, and then they got a couple assets back. They shipped off for Leonard and Wallace from Golden State. And so that was how they put together this team, this current team that we have here. And so, I know that was a lot. But sometimes it's a very interesting team. And so that team all together, they took out the 2 seed Boston Celtics. So in Boston Celtics, they were they're the young team. They're the young Bucks, if you will. No pun intended with the Bucks, but they're the 2nd seed, even though they have the 11th power ranking, because like people just didn't really believe in them for real, and they showed like a lot of weaknesses, a lot of holes, and so they got knocked out in the first round by the Raptors, and so here they are in the 2nd round. And so now that you know the backstory, who do you think will win this series? Make sure to comment down below. And hope you guys enjoyed. And I will get into the Mavericks versus the Thunder in the very next episode. And we'll get into more of the highlights and more of the game speed, and more of the game coverage and that type of game. So I hope you guys enjoyed. And I will see you in the next video. Peace.